The Toronto Blue Jays offense finally woke up yesterday, and the Blue Jays ended a lengthy 7 game losing streak. Vladdy looked good. The rest of the offense looked good. But a report came out that the Blue Jays may still be sellers at the deadline if they can't turn this thing around. And they got a number of attractive pieces on their roster that are expiring contracts, like Yusei Kikuchi, Jimmy Garcia, as well as Danny Jansen. So they could get a decent haul for those guys. Now we're going to try to explore what a haul for them could look like. So I'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jay's Digest. Welcome in everybody to this episode of Jay's Digest. I'm your host Peter Vryonis alongside host Nick Gosse. Now the Blue Jays finally ended their 7 game losing streak yesterday. The offense looked good and it was an exciting game for what felt like the first time in a very long time. Vladdy is really starting to turn the corner. The power is coming in droves here, and it's no coincidence. Ever since he shaved his head, he started to tear the cover off the ball. And when you're hot, you're hot. He hit a really disgusting, ugly double yesterday, but we'll take it because he's flied out to the wall numerous amounts of times this year. So Vladdy is going well. The rest of the offense seems to be kind of hitting. They have been hitting over the past few games. They've had leads in the last few games, but they just haven't been able to close, whether it's the bullpen, whether it's the rotation crapping out. Like it's a never-ending cycle for the Blue Jays, but the offense starting to turn it around ever since Horwitz has been inserted in there and Vladdy has started to hit a hot streak. But Nick, it's still maybe a little bit too late to start turning it around because the Jays are far back in the wild card race. The division is out of reach right now. And how much damage could they really do if they actually manage to sneak into the playoffs?
Yeah, despite the win, I mean, things still aren't looking great for the playoff hopes. Maybe they can continue to go, and all they can do from here is just play their best baseball and try to win. And yesterday was a decent example of that. But some stuff came out from Ben Nicholson Smith. I covered some of his comments in yesterday's video, but Peter, I do want to get your thoughts on some of the other comments that came out. So we're going to start with this. Now, I covered it yesterday, but in case any of you guys missed it, they asked Ben Nicholson Smith how far out of a playoff spot would the Jays have to be before they sell. And Peter, you can look at the odds here. 0 to 9% means they sell, 10 to 25 hold, measured by 26, and 36 plus is a bigger buy. At this point, it's definitely much below 9%, which would indicate that they're potentially selling. And then he basically went out to say that if the Jays are still, at the time, it was 4 games under at the deadline, I'd expect Kikuchi and Garcia to be traded. Jansen could be traded. And then Chad Green, Turner, and Kevin Kiermaier as well, while they're most likely to keep, especially Vlad and Bo as well. So first time reporters come out and kind of said that, and Ben Nicholson Smith doesn't usually do this, but because of the current and unique situation they're in where they haven't been this bad in years, it seems like the rentals are up on the trading block. Specifically, he mentioned Yusei Kikuchi and Jimmy Garcia, who are both expiring contracts at the end of this year.
I'm sure you could even throw Trevor Richards in the mix there as well.
Yeah.
He's been a very valuable reliever for the Jays this year and could definitely help out a contending team. But yeah, I think the Blue Jays are in a position right now where they're not set up well for the present time and they're not set up well for the future either. Whereas you look at the teams in the division, the Red Sox weren't expected to be good this year, but they have been pretty decent and they're fighting for a playoff spot and they're set up very nicely for the future. They have a great farm system. The Yankees, good farm system, not a great farm system, but they're first place, and they have 2 of the top 5 players in baseball this year on their team, and their pitching rotation has been second to none. So they have a very good current roster, and so do the Orioles, who are also set up really nicely for the future. So this division is going to be tough to win, not only this year, but in the next 5 to 10 years as well. So for the Blue Jays, considering that they're not really set up well for the future with their lack of prospects and lack of performing prospects, Ricky Tiedemann can't stay on the field. He can't stay healthy. Aurelvis Martinez is now out for the rest of the season pretty much. So those are your 2 top prospects, your 2 top 100 guys in Major League Baseball. And you can't really rely on them right now. So the Jays need to do the best that they can to try and stock up assets and try to replenish the cupboards in a way because they just don't have much in the farm system. And I think this team needs farm system help. They need players that will be able to come in and contribute within a year or 2 or 3. And right now they just don't have that in the wings.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned it. Their farm system is very bad, so they're obviously going to try to recoup some of those assets. And trading the expirings, whether that's Garcia, who would net a lot, Yusei Kikuchi, who would net a very good amount as well, and then Danny Jansen's the one that I'm hoping they extend, but there's a decent chance they don't. And he said for the first time in a while, he hasn't deemed anybody on the Blue Jays untouchable. Now, I think at this point, Vladdy is probably as untouchable as it gets regarding any of the players in the team. I mean, he's been really good. He's starting to look like his 2021 self. He's crushing every ball. The power still has a bit to be desired, but he's hit a few home runs in the series. So you mentioned the standings. I mean, Peter, they're still 6.5 games back of the wild card spot, and this tweet kind of refers to the fact that if they're still 4 games under, which they're more now, and then you look at the playoff odds here, it's all pointing to a sell. I can't assume at all that they're going to be buyers unless they go on a huge win streak over the next couple weeks. But remember, after tonight's game, they go and they play the New York Yankees, who are arguably the best team in baseball, even though they've lost a few in a row. But I don't know. It's very interesting. All things are pointing to them selling, and maybe this New York Yankee series will be the big deciding factor for Ross Atkins. But according to Ben, selling is going to be coming.
Yeah, well, it should be, and it's just you had your chance. You had your chance to turn it around. You had your chance to get back to the 500 mark, and you blew it on several occasions. And then you go out and you lose 7 games in a row. It's just not good enough, especially not when you're teetering on that line of being a potential playoff candidate. So you can't afford to have long losing streaks like that when you're constantly in an uphill climb. Like there are teams that are underperforming, and a lot of teams that are underperforming around Major League Baseball. Offense is way down. I get all that, but there was a time where the Blue Jays had an opportunity to win games and they had chances to close out leads, and they weren't able to do that. So it's been a never-ending cycle of just constant letdowns, I should say. And yeah, I don't know if this team is good enough to even contend for a playoff spot. I don't think they've shown enough for us to come to that conclusion. And I don't think this core is good enough to keep the team competitive going forward either. So restock, try to hit the reset button. I'm not saying to get rid of everyone that you have. I'm not saying trade Horwitz, trade Schneider, trade Guerrero, trade Bichette. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is find a couple of guys that you want here for the long haul. You got to evaluate. You got to do some internal evaluation if you're the Blue Jays, which I'm sure they have been doing. Overhaul of the coaching staff as well, because they've been a total disaster this season. A lot of changes need to be made, because I'm not going to get fooled by this one win in June over the Boston Red Sox. It's not enough. I haven't seen enough from this team, Nick. So you got to find out who's going to be here for the long haul, keep them around, and then start to fill gaps like piece by piece. And that's what the Jays have to do at this deadline. Do I think they're going to do it? I'm not so sure, but I'm hoping that they go in that direction.
Yeah, the next couple of weeks will definitely help decide that. And also of note regarding potential extensions, they're both open to it, but they haven't been close yet. So that's something to keep an eye on. Something we'll definitely be discussing as the trade deadline approaches. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all this. What do you think the Jays should do? Do you want to see them sell? Do you want to see them buy? Or do you think they should just completely let things go and start to retool? Let us know. If you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now. See you tomorrow.